When we face trials, it's easy to think, what did I do wrong? We assume suffering is punishment for sin, but this isn't always true. The Bible teaches us that trials have many purposes. Some trials are meant to grow our faith, not punish us. We often see suffering as something negative. But what if we saw it as an opportunity to grow closer to God, an opportunity to develop our character? Trials are a part of life. Everyone experiences them, regardless of their faith. But as Christians, we can find hope and meaning in our suffering. The book of Ecclesiastes tells us that life is full of ups and downs. Good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. Time and chance happen to them all, the author writes. Job is another example of a righteous man who suffered greatly. He lost his wealth, his children, and his health. Yet Job remained faithful to God. Job's story shows us that suffering is not always a sign of God's displeasure. Sometimes it's a test of our faith. Through trials, God reveals our true character. He shows us what's really in our hearts. James, the brother of Jesus, wrote about the importance of finding joy in our trials. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, he wrote. James knew that trials are inevitable, but he also knew that they can produce something valuable, steadfastness. When we face trials with joy, we show our trust in God. We demonstrate that our faith is more than just words. Joy in suffering is not about pretending everything is okay. It's about finding hope and strength in God's presence. Peter, another disciple of Jesus, also wrote about the benefits of trials. He said that trials test the genuineness of our faith, so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, which perishes even though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Just as fire refines gold, trials refine our faith. They burn away our impurities and make us stronger. When we endure trials with faith, our trust in God deepens. We learn to rely on Him more fully. Trials can be painful, but they produce something precious, a stronger, more resilient faith. Section 5. Trials build character. Trials not only strengthen our faith, but they also build our character. Romans chapter 5 verses 3-4 say, "Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." Just as a potter molds clay into a beautiful vessel, God uses trials to mold us into the people He wants us to be. Through trials, we develop qualities like patience, perseverance, and compassion. We learn to rely on God's strength, not our own. Trials may be difficult, but they shape us into more Christ-like individuals. Section 6. Christ suffered too. Hebrews chapter 4 verse 15 reminds us that Jesus understands our suffering. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who has been tempted in every way, just as we are, yet he did not sin. Jesus experienced every kind of temptation and suffering we face. He knows what it's like to feel pain, sorrow, and grief. Because Jesus suffered, He can sympathize with us in our suffering. He offers us comfort, strength, and hope. Knowing that Jesus understands our pain gives us the courage to face our own trials. Section 7. Our suffering has meaning. When we understand that Christ suffered for us, our suffering takes on a new meaning. We realize that our trials are not in vain. Colossians chapter 1 verse 24 says, "Now I rejoice in what I am suffering for you, and I fill up in my flesh what is still lacking in regard to Christ's afflictions, for the sake of His body, which is the church." Paul saw his suffering as an opportunity to participate in Christ's sufferings. He knew that his trials had a purpose, to advance the gospel and build up the church. Our suffering also has meaning. When we endure trials with faith, we identify with Christ in His suffering. We become living testimonies to God's power and grace. Section 8. A heavenly perspective. Maintaining a heavenly perspective is crucial when facing trials. This means focusing on the eternal, not the temporary. 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 17 to 18 say, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal." When we focus on heaven, our earthly problems seem smaller. We realize that our trials are temporary, but our reward in heaven is eternal. This doesn't mean we ignore our problems, it means we view them through the lens of eternity. A heavenly perspective gives us hope and strength to endure any trial. Section 9. Trials produce steadfastness. James reminds us that the ultimate goal of trials is steadfastness, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. James chapter 1, verses 3 to 4. Steadfastness is the ability to stand firm in our faith even when life is difficult. It's the quality of being unshakable, unwavering. Trials are like a spiritual boot camp. They train us to be strong and resilient in our faith. When we persevere through trials, we develop a steadfastness that can only come from God. Section 10, conclusion. Trials strengthen our faith. Trials are an inevitable part of life. But as Christians, we can face them with hope and courage. We know that our trials are not pointless. They have a purpose to strengthen our faith, build our character, and draw us closer to God. When we understand the purpose of trials, we can face them with joy and steadfastness. We can trust that God is using them for our good and His glory. Remember, trials are not a sign of God's absence. They are an opportunity to experience His presence in a deeper way.